This is the Week in Review for thetrumpet.com, Friday, February 3rd, 2012. Vatican officials met with leaders of the Palestine Liberation Organization on Sunday. The representatives met in Ramallah to resume bilateral negotiations over the Catholic Church's activities in Palestinian-controlled areas. A joint statement said that the meeting enjoyed a positive atmosphere and strengthened special relations between the two sides. The Catholics presented a draft agreement, and the Palestinians agreed to meet at the Vatican sometime in the near future. These negotiations might seem interesting yet insignificant, but when you realize the Catholic Church's long-term strategy, these talks become intriguing. The Vatican ultimately intends to take control of and actually relocate to Jerusalem. Continue to watch the Middle East closely. The United States has announced it will end its combat role in Afghanistan next year. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said on Wednesday that U.S. troops would end combat operations before the end of 2013, a year earlier than planned. The announcement took the Afghan government by surprise. One senior Afghan security official said that this announcement throws out the whole transition plan. Meanwhile, the Taliban stand to gain from an early withdrawal and a hasty transition. A classified NATO report reveals that even though the Taliban suffered severely last year, it remains very much intact. In fact, Taliban commanders and members increasingly believe that regaining control of Afghanistan is inevitable. The command center for NATO's missile shield will be located at the American Air Base in Ramstein, Germany. A spokesman for the base announced the development on Thursday. The center will enter service in May. The German defense minister said that Germany is the most important, strategically meaningful deployment the United States has in Europe. America is once again trusting Berlin with key national defense issues. As Washington focuses on threats like terrorism, Iran, and China, a much more sophisticated threat may be developing from its over-reliance on Germany. According to Spiegel, the German Secret Service has been spying on members of the German parliament who belong to the Left Party. The incident exposes just how much power Germany's intelligence service has accrued. Spain's new government is pressuring Britain to negotiate over Gibraltar. Last week, British Prime Minister David Cameron promised to respect Gibraltar's right to self-determination. However, the new government in Madrid wants London to negotiate without considering the wishes of the citizens of Gibraltar. Europe Minister Peter Hain said recently that former Prime Minister Tony Blair came close to surrendering the rock in 2002. Hain said Blair was contemptuous of those living in Gibraltar and wanted to secure a better relationship with Spain by giving up the strategic seagate. Britain offered to share sovereignty and maintain a naval base there, but the Spanish vetoed the deal. Britain has already come close to forfeiting one of its last seagates. With the Spanish pushing for Gibraltar once again, expect weak-willed Britain to eventually surrender it. A Chinese military analyst has said that Russia and China should form a Eurasian alliance. Dai Shu said on Monday that the increased military presence of the United States in Asia is designed to intentionally provoke Beijing. Dai is urging Beijing and Moscow and perhaps Iran and Pakistan to form an alliance and to assist nations like Syria. Dai said that both countries have nuclear weapons and massive land areas, so the United States would be unable to penetrate Eurasia. In reality, Dai's proposed alliance already exists between Russia and China, although no official announcement of it has ever been made. More and more South Africans of European ancestry are leaving their homeland. The government estimates that as many as 1 million South Africans have left since the end of apartheid in 1994. Many have cited lack of opportunity and crime as their reasons for emigrating. According to a recent report by the country's Institute of Race Relations, South Africa's white population will shrink by another 20% by 2040. Last August, the independent watchdog Genocide Watch upgraded South Africa's genocide warning for the white population from level 5 to level 6. The decision was made in consideration of the fact that more white farmers were killed in South Africa in 2009 than have been killed in Zimbabwe since Robert Mugabe took power 25 years ago. South Africa's racial relations situation has gone from bad to worse to dangerous. Occupy Oakland protests turned violent last Saturday. The conflict began when demonstrators marched on an empty convention center, intending to move in and make it a commune and protest command center. Demonstrators began tearing down barricades and destroying construction equipment, and police ordered the crowd to disperse. The occupiers responded by throwing bottles, metal pipes, rocks, flares, and other projectiles. They also used elaborate shields to push against the police line. Oakland police countered with smoke, tear gas, and beanbag projectiles. After failing to take over the convention center, protesters attempted to enter a nearby museum, then entered the city's downtown YMCA, and finally broke into City Hall, where they smashed display cases, ransacked files, cut electrical wires, broke a student art display, and damaged a classroom for low-income first-time homeowners. They also burned an American flag on City Hall's front steps. 3 police officers and at least 1 protester were injured, and over 400 people have been arrested so far. The group has threatened to occupy City Hall and blockade the city's ports and airport. Protesters had already caused $2 million in damage to the City Hall Plaza and cost another $2.4 million when they closed down the Port of Oakland in December. Watch for such division, rioting, and clashes to continue, and for the Occupy movement to factor into this year's presidential election campaign. The state of California is short $3.3 billion. State Controller John Chang said that if the state government does not come up with the money by early March, it will have to delay tax refunds again. He also indicated that the rest of the deficit can be covered using creative accounting and other emergency measures. Revenues were $2.6 billion less than expected, and lawmakers spent $2.6 billion more than budgeted. More than 2 years after the recession officially ended, tax revenues are low and jobs are still scarce, making this recovery the slowest on record. This is a troubling sign because California typically leads the nation in economic recoveries. That is the Trumpet.com Week in Review.